It's a staring contest. Okay, I just finished my class from Wednesday of this week. Previous week, we had no class. This is the class I'm taking that is generated from Israel, sponsored by One for Israel, the two professors there that have taught it on the Messiah in the Old Testament. It's just been so good. It really is hard to convey the things I've learned, however, because they're not in me yet. I don't. You know what I'm talking about. It's like when you hear something, you go, "Wow, that's cool," and then someone says, "What is it?" And you go, "I don't know." But there are some things. So the way the professor's been teaching this is giving more of the traditional Jewish argument of what certain messianic scriptures to us are just plain clears, talking about Jesus Christ, and what their argument is. And he says, look, I'm gonna challenge some of you. Some of you are gonna go, dang, they're right. And then he goes, and then I'm gonna give you the evidence to bring you back. And I really like that approach. Some people don't like that. Personally, I do. Because then you know how to talk to people. Because you've already been in their head and in their shoes figuratively as far as how they're thinking and what they're thinking. So for centuries, the rabbis have taught that Isaiah 53, there's basically two kind of theories. One is that Isaiah 53 is really speaking about Israel as a people. He'll be bruised, spit upon and scourged and all that kind of stuff. And that's Israel as a people. But we go through a whole bunch of scriptures that shoot that down. But the bottom line with that is that really how God would treat a whole people? All of them? Every one of them? And there's so many other scriptures. I'm not going to get into everything here. That's not I didn't do the class to then come and try to tell you everything, but there are some highlights. The other theory or thing taught by Jewish rabbis is Isaiah 53 is really about the prophet Jeremiah. And if you go to Isaiah 53:7, in fact, let's do that. If you go to Isaiah 53:7, so Isaiah 53 is just such a clear representation of the prophecy of the Savior. So 53:7, he was oppressed and he was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. He is brought as a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before the shearers is dumb. So he openeth not his mouth. And the rabbis then go to Jeremiah 11:19 and say, some of them say, if it's not Israel, the country, it's about Jeremiah. It's a prophecy about Jeremiah, because Isaiah came before Jeremiah, right? So if you go to Jeremiah 11:19, you get this. Sorry. I'll start in 18. And the Lord hath given me knowledge of it, and I know it. Then thou shouldest me their doings. But I was like a lamb or an ox that is brought to the slaughter, and I knew not that they had devised devices against me, saying, let us destroy the tree with the fruit thereof, and let us cut him off from the land of the living, that his name may be no more remembered. Okay, so this is interesting. So just to give you a little background, Jeremiah is warned by God, who would be Christ, hey, these guys are after you, and you need to make preparations. We really don't have a record of where Jeremiah died. So he would have gone like a lamb or an oxen to the slaughter, but he didn't. So that couldn't be the fulfillment of the prophecy in Isaiah 53 because Jeremiah escaped. Some say the last record of him was in Egypt, which is kind of interesting. But anyway, but where else do we hear, I'm going like a lamb to the slaughter? We just read it last week. I think it was last week, maybe the week before, in the Come Follow Me, where Joseph and Hiram are heading to the Carthage jail. And when Joseph went to the Carthage, deliver himself up, this is in Doctrine and Covenants, section 135, verse 4. To the pretended requirements of the law, 2 or 3 days previous to his assassination, he said, I am going like a lamb to the slaughter. But I am calm as a summer's morning. I have a conscience void of offense towards God and toward all men. So I've often thought, wouldn't it be interesting if Joseph said, I am going like the lamb, capitals, the lamb, to the slaughter. Like. It's just an interesting idea. So we have Isaiah speaking messianically of Christ going like a lamb to the slaughter. We have Jeremiah reflecting back to the words of Isaiah, and he's like, I'm going to be going like a lamb to the slaughter, which he didn't because the Lord warned him. And then we have the prophet of the last dispensation, the prophet, who goes backwards after we know exactly, for the most part, we have the 4 Gospels, we have the witnesses, we know what happened to Christ, and Joseph is reflecting back, going, I'm going like a lamb to the slaughter. It's like you have a Jeremiah witness, you have an Isaiah and Jeremiah witness of what is going to happen to Christ, and then you have pre-mortality of Christ, and then you have this other, I'm going like a lamb to the slaughter, after, through Joseph Smith. It was just a cool thing. Okay, now, another interesting thing about the lesson that we had today is roughly Isaiah 40 through 55 really talks about a second Exodus, and there's so much reference to the book of Exodus in those chapters of Isaiah because it talks about leaving. Now, Isaiah was previous to Babylon coming and taking, destroying the city of Jerusalem, taking captives and taking them back to Babylon. That was Jeremiah's time and Lehi's time, right? Prior to that, it was Assyria who attacked the northern kingdom of Israel, the 10 tribes, and scattered them and destroyed them, right? So, and then after, so you have that first, then you have King Nebuchadnezzar, the Babylonians ransacking, and then you have the Persians who take over the Babylonians, and that's when you have King Cyrus, who allows the people to come back, rebuild their temple, and all that. Okay, so and then years later, you have the, a couple hundred years after that, probably 400 years after that, or not after the Persian, probably 300 years maybe after that, you have the Maccabees that are around 200 BC that are in settlements, the settlements that would be considered West Bank, right? And they're being persecuted, and it's the Greeks this time. I mean, just rattle them up. And we're right in the middle of Hanukkah, and all the things going on. It's about them under incredible odds. This group of Jewish community dwellers outside of Jerusalem, north of Jerusalem. And the Greek had desecrated the temple. The Greeks, can't remember the guy's name, but he sacrificed a pig in the temple of all things, just to do it. Well, the Maccabees overcame the Greeks, retook the temple, rededicated the temple, re-sanctified the temple. And then they lit the menorah. But they only had enough oil, right, for a day. And it had to be pure, and it takes a long time. And this had to go for 8 days. And it did. That's the miracle of lights, the miracle of the menorah. The menorah for us would represent the Holy Spirit, the Holy Ghost. It's the light, the light. So it's just a wonderful story of leaving, exiting a certain lifestyle and coming back. Now, when we talk about the first Exodus, I got off on the Hanukkah, I'm sorry, but when we talk about the first Exodus out of Egypt with Moses, which many of the chapters in Isaiah, as I mentioned, about 40, let's see, 40 through 55. So about 15 chapters that really refer to an Exodus. But it's referring to the old one, but saying that there's going to be a new one, a new Exodus. So here's an interesting thing. We talk about, in our day and age, we talk about leaving or exiting Babylon, right? We do. And that's from that time period of King Nebuchadnezzar. But we could use Egypt. There's all kinds of situations. We could say the Greeks, the Greek influence. We could say the Romans, leave the Roman influence. We could say all kinds of things scripturally that would all mean basically the same thing. Right now, it's kind of melted down to Babylon, but Egypt would be another really good one. So they exit Egypt, and it's in haste. In haste. But here we go. This is really, really interesting, because if I can find my notes here real quick, because the departure from Exodus, or the departure that's listed in Exodus from the book of Exodus, it tells them to leave in haste. Remember the unleavened bread. Everything had to do with the Exodus, in hurry, being in haste. But the next, or the one in the latter days Exodus, it's not in haste. This is interesting to me. And I think I'm trying to find my notes here on this. I really apologize. Okay. Leaving in haste. Let me see if I can find it here. Okay, so Deuteronomy 12, 33 through 42. So if you go to Deuteronomy 12, so we'll go to Deuteronomy 12, and we will read some of this, but not all of it. If you go to Deuteronomy 12, 33 through 34, that's not right. That's not right. Dang it. I wrote down the wrong chapter. Doggone it. But the Isaiah version of this is, depart ye. This is Isaiah 52. Isaiah chapter 52, verse 11. Depart ye, go ye out from thence. Touch no unclean thing. Go ye out of the midst of her, and be clean, that bear the vessels of the Lord. For ye shall not go out with haste. 12, maybe there's a reference there. Dang it. Nor go by flight, for the Lord will go before you, and the God of Israel will be your rearward. Okay, so I kind of blew it on finding where it talks about the Exodus from Egypt, but let me just see if I can find that real quick. So bad. Can't find it. But anyway, the reference in Deuteronomy is go in haste. The reference of leaving or Exodus. I was in Deuteronomy. Maybe that's my problem. I think it's Exodus, not Deuteronomy. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so Exodus 12. That's got to be it. Yeah. And I'll start in verse 33. So I'm sorry about that. I put Deuteronomy and it's Exodus, obviously. Exodus. Okay. So Exodus. Okay. So Exodus 12:33. And the Egyptians were urgent upon the people that they might send them out of the land in haste. And they said, we be all dead men. And then you can just read all the way through I'm going to go down to verse 40. Now the sojourning of the children of Israel who dwelt in Egypt was 430 years. And it came to pass at the end of 430 years, even the selfsame day, it came to pass that all the hosts of the Lord went out from the land of Egypt. It is a night to be much observed unto the Lord for bringing them out of the land of Egypt. And this night of the Lord to be observed of all children of Israel in their generations. And it was all done in haste, remember? It was all done in haste. And the unleavened bread didn't have time. So what's the difference between the first Exodus and then the latter day Exodus? It's one was done in haste and one was not in haste. So my thought is this. The first one, with Moses was the prophet. Moses led them out. He led them in haste. And it was to go from one physical place and leave it and go as a group to another place. Now, for Moses's job, it's really similar to Joseph Smith's, and I'll get to that. The latter day Moses, in my opinion, is Joseph Smith, because Joseph Smith never really got to what I would call Zion, as far as the building up of the people and letting them, see a completion of everything, particularly the completion of the endowment for the people. He didn't get to see the Nauvoo temple completed, and then subsequently the Salt Lake temple, the headquarters. So he led them, he helped with the Exodus, but it's not in haste. Because for me, in my opinion, look at what our prophets have said now. Probably from President Kimball on, maybe even earlier than that, that we don't need to go, we don't all need to go in to one physical place like the children of Israel did. We don't need to do that. What we need to do is become worthy, and we'll bring the temple to you. And the temple and what takes place in the temple, the covenants made with the Lord, which is really what the children of Israel were seeking as well. And they had the portable, the tabernacle, the portable temple, so that they could worship their God. We need the temples. And the Lord in the latter days is taking the temple to the people. So they don't need to come to one place, but we still need to have an exodus. We still need to leave. And we need to leave the world. We need to leave the world. And all the stuff that the world pushes and says is wonderful and great. It's the Babylon, right? But we don't do it in haste anymore. And because of that, to me, it's a spiritual exodus. It's day by day, minute by minute, hour by hour, month by month, year by year, of continually being led by the Holy Ghost, letting God prevail in our lives. And we are then, not in haste, leaving Babylon in the latter days. I have taken so much time on this, and I was ill-prepared. I thought my notes were all here, and you see how that went. But very, very interesting, I think, to see and compare the ancient Exodus out of Egypt to the modern day Exodus out of Babylon, but not in haste. And we just do it day by day by day. And that's why I think our prophet today has said we have to live by the influence of the Holy Ghost. Always. I mean, that has to be our compass, because if we're traveling and we're exiting, we are going to end up somewhere. Now, Moses didn't get him to the promised land, similar to Joseph, in my opinion. That was left to Joshua and Brigham. That's just my opinion. So those are kind of some of the things that we study today. And then I interject my Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saint influence in here and in here. And then I write it down as I'm going. So it can become a bit convoluted because I'm trying to take notes of what they're saying, what this is saying, and what this is saying. And I try to put it down, and it doesn't always work that well. But really, really good discussion. Now, one of so I think I might only have 2 classes left, maybe 1. I think it goes to mid-December. And this has just been wonderful. It's just been fascinating. So Troy Abel's The Last Dispensation, he had a video up this morning that I watched right after my class on the 2 witnesses, the 2 prophets, Revelation, is it 11, I think, that will be slain in the streets. I just had a crazy thought when I was watching it. It was really interesting, and I recommend you go to his channel and watch it. Good stuff. But, okay, so a couple of videos, I've been talking about the stick of Joseph and the stick of Judah, and the Bible and the Book of Mormon. I talked about Joseph Smith seemed to feel more comfortable preaching from the Bible, talking about the Bible, than the Book of Mormon. There's not a lot of sermons that he preaches where he's using, you know, the Book of Mormon prophets. And most of the guys most of the resurrected messengers, I shouldn't say the guys that visited Joseph were from the old world, right? That's where they lived in their mortality. And I brought that all up. Well, okay, so I'm listening to Troy talk about the two witnesses on the Last Dispensation YouTube channel. And the thought just went, okay, now I'm going to tell you, but let me just say this. Do you ever have thoughts and ideas and you go, wow, that's pretty cool, but I don't think I really believe them? This is within yourself. This is one of those things where I don't know if I really believe this, so I kind of hesitate talking about it. But the thought came to me, well, let's go to Revelation, the book of Revelation, and look at the two witnesses. And I think it's 11. Yeah, 11, yeah. And I will give power unto the two witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth. These are the two olive trees, okay, and the two candlesticks. And so they're in, I think that's in Zechariah, I believe. The two olive trees and two candlesticks. So I just had this thought come into my head, and I thought I'd just put it out there. Again, I know there'll be people that will just think, okay, he's lost his mind again, and you'll think, but you know, this is how my mind works, and I like to share it. So when I saw candlesticks, and when Troy mentioned it in his video, I thought sticks, stick of Joseph, stick of Judah. And then I thought, what's the Bible in the Book of Mormon and the Book of Mormon? What do we say? They're the two witnesses of Jesus Christ. They're witnesses. So now I'm going, and they're all written by prophets. So could the two witnesses be the Bible and the Book of Mormon, preached by a lot of people? But the witnesses themselves are the Bible and the Book of Mormon. Now, then you go to Doctrine and Covenants 77, and it says that there'll be two prophets raised up unto the Jewish nation. The title page of the Book of Mormon says that the Book of Mormon is to witness to both Jew and Gentile that Jesus is the Christ. Now, as far as I know, the Book of Mormon hasn't really been exposed to too many Jews, both Messianic and Judaism, Jews. But I'm thinking, I've read this now with the idea that these are you know, the stick of Judah and the stick of Joseph. That's how I've read those. I ask you to do that. Witnesses that lay in the street, they could be outlawed, they could be burned, they could be destroyed, and then they're resurrected again. They have authority and power. The words, because they come from prophets who had priesthood power and authority. And then I'm thinking, okay, if they are actually guys, said that word again, if they are actually humans, or not humans, resurrected, translated, or just humans, whatever your theory is on that. You know, Troy does a good job on giving some ideas of who they could be and the different theories there. I recommend you watch that video for that. But whatever your belief, what are they going to be preaching to the people? What are they going to be using? Two witnesses. I think. I mean, has any prophet not used the previous prophets before them? Used theirs? Did Paul use Just new stuff? No. Did Christ use new stuff? No. He used the prophets of old to testify of himself that they had testified years ago. He used their words. That's the pattern. That's the pattern. And so there is new revelation. There's new things, but there's the established, right? And so I just ask you to think about that. Could these be the two witnesses thought about, preached by a lot of different people? Sometimes when we read the book of Revelation, we have to think in those terms of certain things represented. Now, for instance, those two prophets were thought of as two olive trees. Those aren't human. Those aren't people. Those aren't individuals. They're trees. And also candlesticks. So why couldn't they be this as well? It's just a thought. Just a thought. I know I'll get some grief on that one. But you can't do thumbs down anymore. But you can leave, really good critical comments. And unless they're really nasty, or they begin an argument in the thread, I'll leave them up. I'll leave them up. But really, you're not going to argue against me on that, because I don't even know if I believe it. It's just a thought that came into my head, right? So, but it is interesting to read it with that perspective of two witnesses, two sticks, a candlestick, stick of Judah, stick of Joseph, sticks. That sticks is what got me thinking about it. So that's it on that. My goodness, it's just been a whirlwind. I am so blessed to have had this channel. It's 2 years now. 2 years. 2 years in March, my son and I were in Jerusalem. And when we think of Hanukkah and menorah, we stayed in the Jewish quarter. So this was right when COVID was we got in there just in time and had to get out just in time, right? In fact, that day they shut down. We left on a Friday night, they shut down. Yeah, so it was really a close call. I think we would have been able to get out because they wanted Americans out, but I don't know. Anyway, it was intense. But we stayed for a few days in the Jewish quarter of Jerusalem. And we were literally, back when I was younger, I could have thrown a rock towards and been close. I wouldn't want to hit it. But the menorah, actually, I probably could throw a rock now. That's how close we were. Probably 30, 40 yards straight. And, we had to wind a little bit, but 30 yards maybe from a courtyard where inside the courtyard, you can Google this. I have a picture of myself, my son took of me standing next to the menorah, but it's the menorah that will go into the third temple. It's huge. It's like 8 feet tall, and it's worth like $15, $20 million with gold and everything. It's amazing. And it's in a protected case. And it's right in the center of the Jewish quarter in a courtyard, sitting there waiting to be lit and put into the house of the Lord in Jerusalem. It's pretty amazing. So I feel blessed to have seen it and been right next to it. I think things are so close to happening. I really do. That will really intensify. I think we are really looking. I don't think 2022 is going to be get back to normal and life is wonderful. Prophecies don't go along with that. It progressively gets worse until the Savior comes. If you want to show me a prophecy that shows different, I'll look at it. And I'd love to look at that. But what I see is a progressive disintegration of family, of society, getting away from Christ, getting away from his gospel, his doctrine, and turning more into the world, which, you know, we have to be very, very careful. I had a quote I saw on somewhere of Ezra Taft Benson, and I'll find it. I don't think I'll have it here, but, you know, he was worried as a prophet of what's infiltrated within the church. And he said from the pulpit, from manuals and all these things, he said that it's infiltrated the church as well. So that's why we need the Holy Ghost. Always need the Holy Ghost. Because if a prophet of God is warning us and telling us that he sees it infiltrating and he can't stop it as the prophet, then we're not going to stop it. It's going to happen. There's going to be false teachings taught and things said and done. So we have to have the Holy Ghost to determine, you know, what's right and what's wrong and what feels good, what doesn't, who to associate with. I don't mean it like not being Christian and nice, but who to align yourself. That's probably a better word. So I see things increasing. I see, I think somebody asked me in a comment thing, you know, when are people going to wake up, kind of question, you know, and I thought about it for a few days before I answered him. And I said, you know, everybody's in a different situation. So not everybody's going to need the same thing. It's kind of like you know, Christ said, you know, to the rich young man, you know, he says, I've done all those things. Well, then what you need to do is get rid of your money. That was his one thing. But a lot of, you know, if you don't have a lot, that's probably not your issue, you know, but we all have issues. But I think for the typical Utah, or let's call the Pioneer Corridor, they call that in the church the Pioneer Corridor. It's like Idaho, obviously Utah, Arizona, kind of that strip where the pioneers went into Utah and then went like that, and a little like this, but mostly like this, okay? Which is kind of interesting because if you look at a map of Israel, it fits really lengthwise almost the same as Utah, but it's like the I-15 corridor. It's not very wide. It's just like fits right in there. But anyway, the Pioneer Corridor in those states, if you take those people, and I would say some in California, some on the East Coast, there's an affluency with many saints, an affluency that, in my opinion, has that affluency will have to be taken away before they wake up. Because they have so much, why would they be looking forward to, you know, war and destruction and all the crazy things that have to happen, particularly right before Christ comes? Why would they be wanting that to happen when they have everything? I find usually the people that want Christ to come and are looking for the signs are really struggling with health, finances, testimony, maybe not their own, but family members. And they're just, you know, they're really looking forward to Christ coming. But if you have, you know, 2 or 3 homes, really nice cars, live a pretty, you know, easy life, which for good or for bad, I know a lot of people in that situation. It's hard to want calamity to come to wake people up, because you want that stuff. And you're thinking, well, gosh, I've got this European vacation. I want to do that. I just want this COVID thing to go away, and blah, blah, blah. I'll do whatever it takes so I can go and do what I have the means to do, the money to do it. And I can do this, I can do that, I can buy this, I can buy that. I'm not too stressed about any of this, and it's probably way far in the future anyway, so I'm just gonna live. I think that's a challenge. I do. I think the excess and the affluency is probably for many members, but a lot of people don't have that issue. Their stuff gets in the way. Their stuff gets in the way. So I suspect that something with the markets, something with, you know, the money, the value, people losing that have had it all forever and they lose it, they're going to need Jesus in their life. So I suspect something like that will be a trigger, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm just thinking by some of the people that I know and have been around, that seems to be a big distraction, is wealth. So that's just one thing. Someone else wanted me to just comment about how Sue and I met. It was one person, and it's my favorite story, and I'm just going to end on this. I was 16, so this probably was in 1974, I think. No, that wouldn't be right. Maybe 73. Dates. But I was working up in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. It was my second year as a river guide with the Teton canoe base. And Jackson Hole, Wyoming, just south of Jackson, was our base camp. And we had a crazy summer. Maybe it was my first year working there. No, it was my second year. It was my second year. I was 16 because I was 15 the first summer. So it was my second year. Highest water that had really been. It was crazy. A lot of log jams and canoes and stuck and shredded and all kinds of crazy things. I told a story about that in one of my previous videos. But towards the end of that summer, a group came up from Salt Lake, a young men, young women group, and Sister Palmer was in that group. And I saw her, and she saw me, and sparks flew. We were both 16, same age, and I usually went down. Most guides would just have a rock or the lunch for the day in the bow of their canoe to kind of keep it down a little bit. But when I saw her and she saw me, somehow we figured out a way for us to go down together. And then we stayed in touch. I worked a few more weeks up there to finish off the summer. I think they came up the first part of August. And then came home. She went to Granite High in Salt Lake. I went to Skyline High in Salt Lake. So kind of made it nice because we could each date others without them knowing it. I wasn't much of a dater, okay? And I think she was probably a little bit more than I was, but it made it okay. We both had, you know, just kind of a typical high school experience, I guess, different high schools, but I never, she was who I thought about all the time. And I had another girl that I got a little serious with, and she had maybe a couple of guys that she dated and had some feelings for. But when it got right down to it, when it came time for me to go on my mission, you know, it came very apparent to me who I wanted to spend eternity with. And so when I got home from my mission, and we didn't ride a ton, through the mission, but we did. But when I got home from my mission, I didn't waste any time. I asked her to marry me. So I got home in November, and we were married the following March. So it was pretty awesome. So we met in Jackson Hole area, Snake River, in the mid-70s, let's say, the mid-70s. And it's been awesome. And really, you know, she gets it. She gets it. You guys know that. You've seen her. You get to hear from her occasionally when she feels like it. And life is good. So that's that. Hope everything is going well for all of you. We're basically over COVID, other than the taste and smell thing. And I know people have recommended stuff. I'll tell you, I am so sick of supplements and things. I'm just like, man, I don't know. I hope it comes back, but there are benefits. So we're through that. We're looking forward to the Christmas season, celebrating the birth of Christ. I'll probably go over again our experience in Bethlehem, Sue and I, and what happened in Bethlehem. But I'll wait on that one because it was incredible. It was incredible. I love Bethlehem, and I love reflecting on that sacred day. So we'll talk about that in the future. Anyway, great to visit with you. Have a blessed weekend, Sabbath coming up. And I don't know everything about Hanukkah or anything like that, but for our Jewish friends and for our Messianic Jews, and really for us as Christians, we really ought to look at these holidays, these feasts, and really see, because Christ himself honored Hanukkah. I think it's in John 10, but I'm probably wrong about that. But it is in John, where Christ goes to the temple. So that's pretty cool and pretty interesting that Christ himself would observe Hanukkah. Love you all. Talk to you soon. Bye.